So like this was at a really dire point in the game, and even then, you know, within a year, they're able to stabilize. So that's what Dragonflight needs to do. It needs to stabilize, and then it needs Metsun to bring the thunder. And like you can all hear thunder being growl shouted from his neck.
Yeah.
It needs to bring the thunder again.
And it works.
Which is quite strange because Razageth is a storm dragon, and she didn't bring the thunder.
Yeah, I mean, she did try.
She did try.
Give her that, and I really like her voice because it's really, really imperfect in the way it exactly should be for that dragon. It's very good.
Yeah. So overall, then, that is essentially what we, you know, what we think about things. Great. Chat's just talking about gay weddings. Fantastic.
I mean, that's that's one of the problems that where the whole well is so poisoned. The whole well of discourse is so poisoned that Blizzard do something and does it come across a little bit like pandering because there's so much of it, it's so obvious. Yeah. Is there anything wrong with that? No. But that in the cultural context has a lot of players feeling like, hang on a second. Is this like a game that's trying to tell me stories in good faith, or is it trying to do something else? And that's like a whole just, when you exist in media, you have to realize that all of the water you might drink will kill you stone dead immediately. And I think being able to get around that just seems difficult. That's why people keep talking about it. Like, it doesn't protect, literally from like a reasonably objective perspective, it doesn't really matter. But when you're existing in the world, it's in the same sense as, like, I guess if you're doing something that's similar to real world events, you can't help escape the connotations of reality seeping into how people experience your media. And that just kind of sucks, basically.
Yeah. I suppose, like, I'm so disconnected from this. Like, sometimes I go onto Twitter and I see this, like, hell world where, like, I don't know, J.K. Rowling's doing some fucking weird shit. Graham Linhen's losing his mind as normal, which admittedly is kind of funny. But like, it's probably just them doing a lot of things that, you know, come natural to them. But like everyone, not everyone, a certain subset of people are like trained. You know, they're like these. Yeah, they're trained to be like kind of angry and to see, oh, this is.
I mean, that's the thing.
Crafting NPCs have just made me gay. So, how do I feel about this?
Yeah, that's the thing where I think that's one of the easy defenses, and this goes back to a certain event 8 years ago. It's very easy to paint someone with a brush because they say the same thing that someone much worse says, and it's easy to kind of go, oh well, you could see someone. I feel like, you know, raise your hand. I feel this is maybe a little bit too on the nose. And I feel like they could maybe be a little more subtle. But that gets categorized in the same block as the person going, get this shit out of my games! Ah! And you have the problem where it's like,
yeah, it's a bit weird,
all nuance is kind of dead in the water. And you see any pushback to what you're saying as a positive thing being like, it's you experience that as someone shouting at you from across the street that you don't know, as opposed to what some of the intent is, which is someone taking you aside and going, hey, like, totally, this is great, but, you know, you may want to take it down like 5% or 10%. But it's all
weird to them, though.
Yeah, it's all perceived as people screaming.
That'll be weird to them because they'll be like, Smarge, though.
Yeah.
Why are you bringing this into it?
Yeah, but then that's the thing where in a world where everyone was standing around like at Star Trek and just been like, yes, let's have a meaningful, logical, reasonable discussion of this, you'd be able to get into like okay, so why is there a response here? Is the response warranted from a subset of people? Even though there's a response from a subset of people that's clearly not warranted and clearly their fucking problem to deal with because of however they feel. There's clearly a subset that's maybe, is it worth looking into that subset and going, okay, is there like, does it need to be a little bit more subtle? Do we need to, you know, pepper it somewhere else? Is there literally just the user experience of going and doing 2 quests in a row and both of them just so happen to be big but gay couples are like, what the fuck is going on here? And that's a bit weird that I just had 2 quests that tell me the same thing. And that's obviously like a player experience thing that is hard to work around. But it's like any form of nuanced discussion around it.
So what people's normal is, because like I could do 2 IRL quests and very easily end up in the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not going to turn around and be like, what the fuck, reality? Are you giving me a message? It's like, no. I'm just going outside, and that's, like, how people are. There's nothing wrong with it. But I suppose maybe I'm just not used to this, you know, weird thing where everything's in this terrible American cultural context where, you know, the Americans are so angry at each other and fucking hate each other all the time, and it's so goddamn tiresome. Like, it really does spill out to the rest of the world, and we'd really like it if you all stopped. But, I mean, then again, you just have a state like Georgia do insane shit. And you're like, okay, cool. Well,
yeah,
that's going to be the thing now.
That's what I mean about having to remember that the body of water you currently exist in as the game developer is all poisoned, and you have to make a personal decision on, like, how to deal with that. Do you just kind of trod on and, you know, hope your immune system deals with the poison, or do you try to create some filtration system? This analogy's falling apart a bit, but as my analogies never fall apart. It has never happened before, but there is a pretty it's just that thing of, it's complicated. It shouldn't be complicated because everyone should be reasonable, but not everyone's reasonable, and thus it becomes complicated because the well's all poisoned for discussion. Very, very annoying. And then obviously people have to keep bringing it up because people end up feeling strongly about it one way or the other. And it's just a topic of easy discourse.
Yeah, and then it's weird because, like, oh, what a character being like a person, how they might be in real life, is suddenly a political point now. You're like, what? What?
Yeah.
Just imagining going into, like, work and be like, hello, friend. Is your sexuality, in fact, a political point? It's like that would be so cracked and insane. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Discourse is all weird.
Everyone's weird. Everyone's weird, and I think everyone is, like, more than ever before. Everyone in the entire world is having a very weird time. I'm trying to have a very, very weird time online. Going, Jesus Christ, I don't know how to feel or how to act. I was just screaming into the void. Sometimes the echoes out of the void hit other people, and it gets a bit weird.
I think that mixed in with the timeless thing about, like, young men just don't have something to do.
Yeah.
They find something to do. I think everyone knows that young men are more easily radicalized in any direction than probably any other group because we're really fucking stupid.
Not just they're really stupid, is that young men really want to do things.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes it's easy to be convinced to do something. Interesting.
Yeah, that's why I think, like, and it's all very interesting, like, online content, algorithms, plus young men, maybe will equal problems.
Problems that could be easily overcome if the world were a little bit more organized towards solving those problems instead of
Nope, it's an extraction economy.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
It will extract something for sure eventually. And what is going to get extracted isn't very nice.
Yeah, no, it's weird stuff. Overall then, Dragonflight, I think, really great expansion. Like, it really is on the design level. It's so much better. The lore is at least feeling like way more, you know, respectful and all of that stuff than it had been recently. The raid's really fun. Dungeons have tuning issues, but so far I've, like, really liked the dungeons. I really like the world. I like the layout of the world. It is firing all cylinders. We now have pretty much strong confidence in the game's future over the next year. It's just interesting coming to grips with the one point where essentially all the signals have turned positive. That is also the point where that's mattered seemingly the least.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if those signals hadn't turned positive, the game would literally be dead. So it definitely does matter in a degree.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean, right? It's like...
Yeah, did you ever hear of a little story?
Oh.
This is a very... it doesn't match up one for one as a fable. Did you ever hear of The Boy Who Cried Wolf?
Ah, yes.
It's the same idea. For PFA, Blizzard went, please come over. This is our good expansion. This is a good expansion. Please purchase it. Please enjoy it to the fullest. And then everyone went, Legion was okay. There was a wolf last time. Let's go and see the Kragas. This isn't very good expansion. You lied to me. Whatever. Shadowlands. Please come buy our expansion. It is very good and we've tried very hard and it's wonderful. Thank you.
No AB!
Yeah, and then everyone came in and went, oh, you lied again. It took them a while to realize, but they went, yeah, you lied again. And now Dragonflight, like, come, we made a good expansion. And everyone's like, no, you didn't. Was it like, film me once, shame on you, film me twice, whatever. It's like, they're like, nah, okay, we'll just not bother.
Yeah, I think now
that's like the fundamental thing that's happened here, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a hardcore, you will not fool me again.
Yeah. Yep. And the people are going to take a lot of like looking on. I mean, I suppose if you're really full and you're burned by it, just be like, no. And then what's the chances you found? And this is the big thing that World of Warcraft's really going to struggle with, I think, is how many people. Is this the right analogy? Is this a weird one to use? I think it's sort of weird. I'm in a very lateral thinking analogist sort of mood today. But it's the idea of like, you split up with your partner because of disagreements, and then you wait a load of time to improve yourself, whatever else, and get back to be worthy of them, and then you go back to them. You can't really get all that mad when they're with someone else, and that's like, especially in a genre like MMO, you can imagine that happening quite a lot. You could imagine that pretty much being, oh yeah, hey, World of Warcraft gamer, World of Warcraft is really hot now, don't come back. I promise I don't like clip my toenails and fling them across the room anymore. I guess that's what World of Warcraft would do. And then, okay. But then they're like, sorry, I don't have time for you anymore. I played Fortnite now or something. I don't know. Oh, there was an obvious game there, but I thought that'd be too obvious. It's more, I think there's a lot of like other places people could go, and that's kind of happened, I imagine.
To do some supers, Thomas de Santiago, why is the non-straight sexuality cost to analyze the quality of a character's implementation? Why does it get so much attention? Can't it just be good, bad, forgettable, like everything else? I mean, ultimately, like, yeah, I do share the exact same frustration as you, and, you know, I do agree, like, the thing that'll matter, the only thing that matters there is, well, was it a good story? Is it a good relationship? As for, like, the reason why, I think, you know, honestly, I think that it's been a really bizarre period, a bizarre period of time, you know?
Culture war, authorial intent.
Yeah, it's the whole culture war thing, and people trying to, like, divine intent from things, whenever it could just be that, like, quest writer, like, thought of these characters, really liked them, did it earnestly, and maybe people find it likable, which is really what I think it is. You know, I don't think that, you know, Holly's just turned around and be like, our company has been attacked. We must have, here's an agenda, put it in. Like, no, that's not happened. Like, most of these things are going to be bottom up, right, from the people actually making the content. So as for, like, the why, I think it's just because everything's got pretty insane. I think things are increasingly viewed from this, like, super big, weird political angle where, like, now everything's political, you know? Like, everything's political. Everything means something. Apparently, you know, what you think about this means you also think that, right? You know, the whole weird thing of, like, the hyper-correlated opinions, and you're like, well, this really shouldn't be the case. So I think, Tomas, it's a lot of just pretty unfortunate stuff when we deploy media at scale, when we have this, you know, when we have this, like, large incentive to generate the click money. And then, you know, you do have a lot of, I mean, you can immediately look at how many Fox News frontmen, like, you know, your Tuckers and your Hannitys and stuff. And I know there's people on the other side have been a bit ridiculous too. I think Rachel Maddow's the one who's been a bit wild too.
I think the thing is, everyone on every side has been completely mental. Be that on a binary, be that mostly in the quadrant, people have just been mental.
Well, mostly on the American side, I'd say, like, you know, we could have a big old discussion about, you know, Sky News tends a little bit to the right over here. BBC is more center/leaning into the government. Channel 4 is going to be a little bit more to the left. But I think, like, if people from the States saw our, you know, main TV, they would be, I mean, they'd fall asleep in 10 seconds. Yeah. Because it's so much less insane than their, you know, their media and their stories. Now then, they would look at UK tabloids and think, what the fuck's going on there? Because basically our tabloids are like your mainstream, you know, people in the telly talking.
Except somehow with less decorum, if that was ever possible. I love, like, seeing the, like, headlines in the shop. It's class.
Yeah, British tabloids, that's one of the things that needs to be shot into the sun as quickly as possible. But I think all of this has meant that, like, you know, everything, it's not just what it is. It apparently also means a whole bunch of other things because, you know, now we're dividing, right? And I mean, it's very easy to point out that like the world's becoming very divided.
It's literally like,
and this is not just left versus right. You know, it's not just left versus right. It's also like left and left.
It's,
you know, the whole thing of like, you know, when you see Rose Twitter have an argument with itself, that is some vicious shit. So, you know, I think it's like everything kind of is descending a little bit into tribalism. It's almost like, I don't know, it's like this weird fucking influencer idea of feudalism or something weird and uncomfortable. But I think all of this means, though, that people feel that things mean more than they do. And maybe there are some times where things actually do mean more than they do. But then the problem is that that's not always applied in good faith, because, you know, reading things in good faith just... That's unfortunately not what happens most of the time.
Yeah, because you don't feel anything when you read things in good faith. You read things in good faith and you go, oh, it's, yeah, sweet. And then you go about your day. But I think people like don't have days to go about.
Yeah, instead. I think as well, like there's also, you know, the fear of the other and all of that. So maybe if you, and this is like what you see with the Trekkies, where it gets kind of interesting, because like, right, Trekkies, I mean, come on, like that is basically luxury utopia space-time. Yet people see, you know, a character like Stamets in Star Trek Discovery, and they're like, oh, they've added the gays to Star Trek and now it's bad. And then you're like, what? Have you lost your marbles? Because people are like, I see the thing, it's different from me, and that's why the thing's bad now. Then I'd be like, well, actually, no, Stamets like one of the few characters I actually liked in that show. Okay. You know what I mean, right? It's like things just mean more to some people anyway. They mean more than maybe what the author means, and it just becomes quite hard to talk about things. Like even just take a movie, right? Like you take a movie and you can say, I didn't really like that movie, and then you'll go on the internet and there'll be 18 video essays explaining exactly why, for a set of complicated political reasons, this movie's bad. And sometimes might be the case, sometimes might not be the case. Yeah. Sometimes, you know, you have completely, you know, incompatible reasons being put out by different people, and it's just all, you know, little algorithm tribes that have naturally formed together based on whatever the highest click-through rate is.
That's why I think my favorite example is A Critical Drinker of all of that stuff, because sometimes you can tell this is actually, from the perspective of a writer, this is a very good explanation of why this movie may not have landed with audiences. And then other times it's the message, please clap. And like sometimes it's completely unhinged, didn't mentally show up to work that day, just made the video anyway. And some days it's like really incisive, and you kind of go, oh yeah, I can see the problem here. Sometimes, you know, the capability's there, but it's not always used for one reason or the other. And like that's very, very interesting. I thought it was very fun to go through the catalog there.
Yeah, you kind of see that with a lot of them. It's like, yeah, maybe we all started off making points, but now we're just kind of like meme flinging.
Yeah.
And the meme flinging loses so much precision that, you know, the things get messy and that people start kind of painting with very broad brushes. And, you know, now it's this thing of like, you know, you say non-straight sexuality. Now that's not people. Now that's other people.
Yeah.
Which is like really weird if you think about, you know, what populations are like. We're not straight, that's us as well. What? You know, yeah, it's weird. But then again, you know, you find out like, I don't know. It's like you don't want to make it the Bashing America show, yeah, but fuck me, you really can't escape how annoying online American culture is.
Well, that's because America is effectively like the forefront of modern culture in that way.
Oh God, we're screwed.
It's the newest country, so it had the least culture to go back on and hold itself front. Also, it's a
newest superpower country.
Yeah, it's a united place and there's all this stuff. It's, you know, it's the newest culture in a way. And it had the first big waves in the internet and stuff, all of that kind of stuff, especially because it had such a population that spoke English compared to like Europe, who for the longest time, you know, obviously it's getting more English speaking overall, but it's like split by language, so we were in smaller things. Basically, the way I'm bringing what I'm trying to bring it back around to is because Epic Awesome Socks said quite a while ago, why does it always come back to Gamergate? And that's because that was the first time someone had a name to describe, and this was actually the idea of having names and having definitions is actually important. We're going to get back to this for talking about World of Warcraft later, believe it or not. But it's the idea of people had a name for what was effectively really vitriolic online tribalism. And that tribalism is like such a natural human impulse. And you combine that with the internet, where you can have... Because obviously if you're in a tribe, right, you can't collude with someone in the other tribe because they're physically over there. But on the internet, you can belong to a lot of tribes and also one massive tribe and infinitely large tribe and all these different things. So it's like, I feel like the human instinct just explodes. And you end up having all these really insane, weird things happen in your brain. And you have like the constant seeing everyone as the enemy, which is amped up by a whole lot of real world stuff, because when's the last time, especially people like our age and below, when's the last time you went to the news or to the online and it wasn't just, oh my God, we live in hell? And that's been it from like, obviously all the engagement things of media been like, well, how do you get the news to be engaging? Tell people bad things because they don't watch the good things. So everyone's in this like, especially when you think of like we're getting really deep into this, but fuck it, like increased caffeine consumption. You get decreased like physical and mental health across the world. And what's that going to do? That's going to ramp up things like anxiety. That's going to ramp up like elements of paranoia. And I don't mean like full-blown paranoia. I just mean people who are a little bit anxious, a little bit less sure, a little bit less busy will invent enemies in their head. And not like in a really serious way, but they will feel of other people as enemies. Because people don't feel together. They don't feel like they're family. They don't feel like they are of one tribe.
Without the
internet, idea of everyone gets divided substantially, continually into the tiniest subcultures, the tiniest subgroups. But then you don't really ever feel like you're part of a tribe fully, so you find small connections to people. Like, oh yeah, you like I like a different gacha game from you, but it's still a good gacha game. These people don't like gacha games, let's kill them. And then you kill the non-gacha gamers, and now there's no one left to kill, so you're looking across each other going, there's only, there ain't enough room in this town for the both of us. Genshin Impact and Arc Knight Play Archive, I don't know what, some shit, some gacha game, and then they kill each other, and that's just how it always is. But it always comes back to Gamergate, because I was like the first time someone had like a word for it. Yeah, than a really like clean set of examples, even though the reporting around that was obviously very tribalistic and far from accurate from every side anyway, because that was the first example of being... I
think if more people tried to be reasonable and de-escalatory on both sides, to be very clear, on both sides, I'm not just talking about bashing the journos.
On every side of everything.
Then, maybe more of an accord could... But maybe I'm just hopelessly optimistic, though, and, that would have never happened. Yeah. I mean, even take you. You're watching Battlestar Galactica right now.
Yeah, it's good as hell.
Katie Sackhoff.
Yeah.
She dared to be cast in a role. And for that, death threats, the whole 9 yards, fucking humongous online, and this is early days of online, of course, hate campaign because Starbucks a woman now.
Yeah.
And you watch the show and you're like, yeah, good. She's brilliant.
Yeah, it's a great...
His ears just dropped.
Yeah, it's okay, whatever that means. But yeah, I know.
Whenever Matt tells the truth, his ears drop.
Yep, that's it.
And that's happened. Oh yeah, she's in the Mandalorian as well.
Nice.
And it's been like that for things in the past. In quite a lot of times. It's just the internet's like the great accelerator, and then it's exactly what you said about the subgroups. Yeah. I really think that the subgroup thing is it's just really fascinating. I mean, even
infinitely divisible culture. That's more or less what it is. You can always boil down to, because, well, this is a lot of my own...
High elf applicators!
Yeah, so, like, this is exactly it, where it's like, I have been in many, many online threads discussing many things in my younger years, and it would always be that way of, like, is this, like, a hyper niche interest? Yes. Are we, like, the best of friends because we share this hyper niche interest? Yes. Will there be like one iota of difference and then we'll get into a fight to the online death over it? Yes. Because that's just how people kind of get along. I think there's a lot of like physical language stops that. And a lot of like cooperation that kind of stops that. But without that cooperation, because there's no systemic way for cooperation on like Twitter and stuff, it's just a load of fighting and fighting and fighting.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess that's that's it. It just feels bloody different to how it did 10 years ago. I was there in the original WoW dramas, and it all feels different. Because previously, the sorts of things that are being talked about now, they'd never be... It's either people weren't aware, people didn't care, but like it's not what was talked about ages ago. People were actually just talking about the games and the game being salty at the devs, whereas like now, you know, so many more things have been kind of like shooped into it.
It's what I'm talking about, the poisoned well.
Yeah.
It's like, it's as much as I think, obviously I've probably talked before, but like everyone lives in their own hyper reality. No one lives in real reality, etc. Real reality is still like a layer that we're all like mapping our own hyper reality on top of. So you can't like escape the physical world. You're going to have to live in the physical world. And in the physical world, everyone is running around with just vitriol dripping out of their brains, because that's the way culture and the tools of humanity have taught them.
Or maybe, this might be crazy, maybe they don't watch the news because they've realized it's just kind of annoying. They're not a part of many different weird online groups. They maybe just play some Modern Warfare 2 with the boys from university. And maybe they go out for pints with their mates. And maybe the most they hear about Twitter is whenever they're walking past a newsreader on a TV. And they are just living a fucking brilliant life, disconnected from the Torment Nexus. But I think that's basically the thing. Torment Nexus has been growing bigger and bigger and bigger.
It is all encompassing.
The Torment Nexus is just consuming more and more things, right? And it's just got outward and outward and outward and outward and brought all the things together so that, like, we see... It's like the issue is completely interchangeable. Mm-hmm. Are we talking about The Last Jedi? Are we talking about Dragonflight? Are we talking about Shadowlands? Are we talking about whether katanas are better than, you know, European medieval swords? Whatever it is.
Obviously not.
Whatever it is, it's like the tone of the discussion no longer feels specific to the issue. It feels generic Torment Nexus talk. So that's basically what we have to call it, generic Torment Nexus talk. And I think some of that generic Torment Nexus talk has, you know, it was artificially inflating World of Warcraft's online position because Shadowlands was like so humongo mega fun to bash on. But now that the game's good, it's like, but what? We were all just playing WWE Anger with each other, and now it's just a good game, and it's actually good. So you've just broken the... And then they're gone. I'm not interested in WoW anymore. So that's overall the situation.
Yeah, and for those who wonder what the Torment Nexus is, there was a tweet from Alex Blackman that said, "Sci-fi author, in my book I invented the Torment Nexus." That's League of Legends place. The Torment Nexus is a cautionary tale. Tech company. At long last, we have created the Torment Nexus from the classic sci-fi novel Don't Create the Torment Nexus. Which is to say that there's a lot of sci-fi concepts that very clearly are laid out to be bad things or things that can go very wrong if misused. That's most of sci-fi is, this is cool, but it will fuck us all up forever.
Yeah.
And then apparently people who make things are very stupid and just see and go, that's cool, let's make that. Let's make the Torment Nexus. Basically, I think, yeah, technology bad unless used correctly. That's the takeaway, I think.
Yes.
Just for the explanation.
Yeah, about societal, can society catch up? And I think a lot of the answer is no. So basically we just end up feeling kind of like we don't understand what's going on. So then we have an emotional response to what's going on. And then that all just becomes a feedback loop. And then it becomes a big old messy place. And this is what consumes communities online. And people, you know, whether it's World of Warcraft or the Omegaverse, the one destination is shit show.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But hey, now the shit show is available at a more accessible price because we do have
so
Seamless.
We're going back to the World of Warcraft news. That was a great conversation.
Pull the Warcraft news lever. Ah! Okay.